It's good to see you too. How you doing, my dear? It's good to see you. Get an hour later.
It's interesting to come back to Denver and see people, in some cases, whom I haven't seen for 10 years, in other cases, 40 years. But there are a number of things that really strike me about this, whether in this context or another context. First of all, the time between when we graduated from high school and now seems like an infinitesimally small period of time. Some people look remarkably the way they looked in high school, like Jenny Yoder, whom I just saw, amazing. We've all aged a little bit. It's a lot of fun to come back and see people you haven't seen in a long time.
Good. You look so pretty. You look just the same.
Really? Not every change.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yes. Definitely. Well, they say I haven't grown. No, I haven't. I'm getting shorter, matter of fact. We're getting old, so I'm getting shorter, okay?
This is my little friend.
My little friend.
My little friend. My little friend for a long time.
Say hello to my little friend.
Her name is Lucy. Now she's a Rice. She used to be
Rieseman.
And
I met Dave
she
in
was
seventh grade.
She's one of my biggest nemesis in high school. I mean, as small as she is, she was the
I'd walk
biggest,
down the hall
Yeah.
and James would hide in his locker. He would say, oh no, please don't hurt me, no.
Every time.
I think it's just that's how I it's kind of helped me with recognizing people. Some of the people that are on Facebook, I'm like,
You're right.
kind of helped.
My wife on my right, Elise on my left. We went to East High School, class of 77, and old friends catching up just like it was yesterday.
This is my friend Irvin Thatch. We've been friends for 43 years now. Irvin Thatch played sophomore football with us, and he blew his knee out his sophomore year. Now, the story, you'll hear tomorrow night till you hear it again. But the story goes, I'm living with this for the rest of my life, because had he not blown his knee out, he more than likely would be in the Hall of Fame. Not me.
1976, #1 single player for East High School. And I still ain't in the Hall of Fame. Let that be recognized. Because I need to do something about that. Real.
This is East High School. East High School. Angel.
All of these people are just a part of my life every day. I love being around them, seeing them. It's wonderful that all these people are still connected in some way. One day that's all kinds of chaos started hanging out at the South Lawn, and he picked me up and he threw me in a bus, and I'm like, James, where do you want me to go? And he's like, just get on the bus, girl, I've got to save you. And he's throwing everybody onto buses, and I'm like, what about you, James? And he goes, I'll be fine. But I never did find out what happened, but whatever happened that day, we went off. And James and I had always been really close friends. We were always kicking it, talking, and he always told me I had the driest sense of humor. But one of my best memories is James Richardson and I. We always hung out together. I have so many memories, and a lot of my friends that are here tonight, I remember their birthdays, I remember their phone numbers, because we didn't have cell phones, we didn't just dial, and they're like, you have the best memory. I'm like, but you were my besties. I could never forget that. that's who you are. You're still in my heart forever. I'll never forget them ever.
The man that inspires, the man that inspires, and the man that inspires. It goes generations. And then we hope to bring our children to see what's going on. We're here because we're all angels. Ain't that right?
That's right, we're angels. We live to inspire.
Emil Ziegler set up Senior Seminar, which was intended to take the sort of, I used the expression earlier, the misguided youth.
Yeah, the ones having a tough time in the
and
classroom.
to take them out of the city and put them in an environment to teach them about actions and consequences.
Yep.
I was, although I was not the intended population,
I wasn't either.
I was clearly a beneficiary of what that mission was intended to accomplish.
Hey, Jeff Hill, we really missed you, man. We wish you could have been here because this was an amazing gathering. Your friends are all here, Jeff. We miss you.
40 years, man. A lot of highway. A lot of highway. Give it up for East Emmanuel!
We have the privilege of having a couple beloved teachers with us tonight. We have Miss Carrie Jones, who was at Manual High School English teacher. And we have Mr. Richard Nelson, who was a beloved English teacher in his time. Thank you for coming and joining us tonight. We literally, I have in my notes that my first committee meeting was July 13th of 2016. So we have literally worked on this for a year. We were Zooming, Skyping, doing all these things to have these meetings, to put this reunion together. And the fearless leader that we have to thank for that is about to put a bite of food in his mouth. James, stop. James Ainsworth, we could not have done this without you. And so we wanted to give you a special symbol of our appreciation. Like, raise your hand. So good to see you, and thank you. James, we wanted to let you know that we did not overlook the fact that you really kept us all together and worked really, 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 really hard on this reunion, and thank you so much.
I've got a number of memories of Manual, and I'm sure a lot of you do as well. But I want to start in 1954, and there was a case called Brown versus the Board of Education. And Brown versus the Board of Education established that separate is not equal. And the kids coming from Crestmore and Hilltop understood that right away. We were more familiar with George Washington, with band rooms and swimming pools and scores of fields and classrooms and everything you'd want. And then we got to Manual. And my first recollection is we're sitting in one of those small desks, you know, that are self-contained and you put your books underneath. And all I remember was scratched deeply into the surface of the desk was Vinny, class of 57. And it's funny, my first year in law school, we're studying constitutional law, and the teacher says, we're now going to discuss Keys versus Denver Public Schools. And the teacher called on me, and I got to say, I'm going to tell you what really happened with the busing in the Denver Public Schools. It was a social experiment. And whether we knew it at the time or whether we want to admit it now, in certain ways we were all kind of guinea pigs. What's going to happen when we put groups of kids from different cultural backgrounds, racial backgrounds, economic backgrounds? What's going to happen when we put them together? Well, in my view, what happened is that we all benefited by that. We benefited by understanding that our worldview is not the only worldview, and that people different from us are more like us than we'd ever thought possible. It was interesting, at the time, a lot of these kids from Crestmore and Hilltop, and also kids north of 6th Avenue, many of these families could have sent their kids to private schools or manipulate things. And my recollection is that just about every kid that went to Hill Junior High ended up going on to Manual. And the reason is I think, now that looking back on it, is that the families, the white kids from Hilltop and Crestmore, wanted to make America a better place. And it worked, because I think we've all benefited from having done that. Now, I'm done being serious almost, but I want to talk about one person in particular, and Kim has some things to say about him, and his name was James D. Ward. Doctor, what are your memories of Principal Ward?
So I have a really, really fond memory of Mr. Ward. I have a little bit of a different experience than Steve, although I agree with everything he said, but Steve and I also went to Hill. I went to Steck, I went to Hill, and then went to Manual. And I have 2 older brothers that went to George Washington. And during that time, because I lived on 3rd and Garfield in Cherry Creek, I was given the opportunity to either go to GW or Manual, because I was the only person of color, the only black in that neighborhood. So I had a choice. And so my dad wasn't too thrilled with that. And my mom was not exactly thrilled either. My brothers were definitely not thrilled. But I decided that I was going to be the rebel. And I was going to go to Manual. And I didn't want to kind of be in the footsteps of my brothers. I wanted to kind of mark my own trail. And I remember walking into the front doors, getting off the bus, first of all, walking in the front doors of Manual, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is a great place. And I saw Mr. Ward. And, you know, if you know Mr. Ward, big guy, broad shoulders, I don't recall one time he ever raised his voice in the hallway or yelled at us. He had such a quiet presence about him. And I'll tell you that that's what I thought a leader was. You know, he was quiet, we respected him, he valued us as kids. I mean, you know, we were kids running around being kids, but he was happy that we were here, and he would always greet us every single morning. And so that's one of my first fond memories, and I have a lot of memories of Mr. Ward.
One of the things we all perhaps remember also is there was virtually no violence at Manual. Not that I can recall. And on the first day, Mr. Ward, the whole student body was assembled in the auditorium, and he says, I can protect you inside this school. And as long as you're in the school, nothing bad will happen. But if you go across the street to that park, you are outside of the comfort zone. And I did not go across the street to that park. I think maybe the last day of school, just to see if I could survive it. That's correct. I also want to say a word about Ed Calloway. Ed was the basketball coach. Ed was also a football coach. And Ed also was very much of a leader. And I remember junior year, I was the only white kid on the basketball team for the JV. Ed Calloway made certain that there were no problems, and there really weren't. I'd also like to put a word out to Walt Nordby. Now, Walt was a really straight-laced guy who looked like a 50s dad. But after a couple, 3 years there, we all saw that Walt had a personality, and we actually called him Walt, and he responded to us well. Another thing I just want to mention is Dick Jordan, and one thing Mr. Jordan did, and I want to also talk about Mr. McCracken, who's passed on. But these were teachers who, when Manual started, when the busing started at Manual, they left their positions, and a number of other teachers did this too. They left their positions at George Washington to be part of the experiment at Manual High School. And they were very formative for all of this. Now, I've asked a number of my classmates for some of their memories. But before I get there, I don't really understand something. What's this big thing about legal marijuana? Because if you were to go to the South Lawn of East High School,
we all know the South Lawn.
okay. All right. Now, there's also some very interesting nomenclature, very interesting words. So, I went back east to school, and I was joking around with someone, and they go, "Really?" And I go, "No, ways out." What the hell? Where does that come from? But not only is it a Colorado term, not only is it a Denver term, it's a Denver Public Schools term. Okay. And here's another word that amongst my friends we still use, and we refer to our children as such. Peckerwoods. Raise your hand if you really know what a peckerwood means. Oh, we got some. Okay, well,
I don't even know what
I looked it up in the Urban Dictionary. And one of the definitions is a prison gang member wannabe. So I called my kid that once, and they looked it up, and they were real happy with that. For the East High folks, a lot of their memories and a formative experience was that senior seminar. And similarly at Manual, there were river trips. Now the river trips started out as just for AP history, but it kind of morphed into a general thing for a lot of the schools, for the whole school. And it was really interesting because a lot of the kids were very urban. And how many times have they had an opportunity to really raft down a river? Similarly, for the senior seminar at East, these kids had a chance to go to Mexico. And I think those experiences have stayed with people for a long time.
I'll mention one thing about the rafting trips. We had to find our own money. I'm sorry, we had to find our own money. We had to fund it. So we held garage sales. We went to parents, we went to our friends, and we had to raise money in order for us to all go on that trip together. It wasn't, the money wasn't donated. We had to work really hard to sell and even get our food and pack all the gear and everything.
Now, my wife Kari remembers that. My wife Kari remembers that because she, from the time she was a little kid, she saved all these Barbie dolls. And by the time she was 17 or 18, there was a great collection. So she decided to sell the whole Barbie doll collection at the River Sale garage sale for about $10. Well, at Christie's, that same set is $1,490,000. Okay, a couple of other memories, and this is for the Manual people. We had an open campus pretty much. We had an open campus pretty much, and it wasn't necessarily supposed to be that way, but that's how it worked. And one of the things that by the time we were seniors, we did regularly, with the knowledge of the faculty and staff, is we took off the second period and we went to the kitchen. which is a little place on Colfax and about race or something like that. And it's still existing there. And let's be honest, when you're in high school, I didn't really like coffee. We're not drinking coffee then, but that's what you do when you went to the kitchen. So we'd all drink a bunch of coffee, and then we'd go back for our third period completely zizzed out. But it worked for all of us. Another thing that I remember, gas was about 50 cents a gallon. And I remember, you'd be driving around and you'd want some help from a friend, and so they'd give you a quarter, and you'd say, thanks, that's all I need. I remember also, we had an open campus, and for a while there I was going to, the school cafeteria food. It was kind of fun, or kind of bad. And remember the hamburgers that tasted like oatmeal? Now what was that about? So we used to go to Burger King, and a Whopper combo was $1.49. Now, let's go back to the lunchroom, because we had a jukebox at Manual, and it was a lot of fun. And some of the music from that time was great. I'm still trying to figure out what Philip Bailey's lyric on Earth, Wind, and Fire, the 12th of never, really means. I don't know what that means. And I think one of the favorite songs was Play That Funky Music, White Boy. Now, we're going to have a little trivia time. What was the name of the band that did Play That Funky Music, White Boy?
Average Water Band.
Wild Cherry, that's right. Yeah. Okay, now, I can't leave those years at Manual without talking about, was that basketball that we won? Was that the state championship with Levon, who went to Kentucky? Zellwood Head went to Hawaii. There's a guy named Chris Cotton, a guy named David Bennett, and there's some other ball players there too as well. But that was a great experience for all of this. And the only problem is it was at the Coliseum, and it was right after they had the stock show. So, you all remember the old Coliseum. A couple of more memories, and then we're gonna show a video in a little bit. We have some different memories. Someone was in theater, and what they remember is Manual was putting on The Music Man, and a barbershop quartet came into the lunchroom to sing, to advertise and sell tickets for the show. Unfortunately, half the people were at the kitchen. Somebody remembers driving down 26th Street and hitting a fire hydrant. A lot of the track guys at East remember Jerome Biffle. Some of the athletes at Manual remember Don Gatewood and Ira Burrell, who are just great men. One of our classmates remembers a fetal pig being swung by a rope in the courtyard of Manual High School. I missed that day. Oh, do you remember painting the shed at South High? Anybody remember doing that? Right, there was a group of guys who put a Volkswagen on top of the shed. I think there was a class behind us. And if anybody else has any memories, you're free to talk to everybody about them.
And my time was running wild, a million dead-end streets, and every time I thought I got it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. So I turned myself to face me, but I've never caught a glimpse how the others must see the faker. I'm much too fast to take that test. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes. Don't wanna be a richer man. Changes. have to be a different man.